In the last lecture, we had a discussion on macrocytic megaloblastic anemia, and I told you what is a macrocyte. I also told you what is a megaloblast, and I also in detail explained you what is anemia. And in this lecture, at molecular level, what is the defect caused by deficiency of B12 and folic acid, we will discuss it in detail. Now, some words on B12. B12, the main source of B12, they are animal products. They are animal products. We mainly obtain B12 from animal products. Then, one more important thing here, the daily requirement of B12, it is 2 to 3 microgram per day. We require this much of 2 to 3 microgram of B12 per day, and the stores of B12 in our body, they are limited to 3 to 5 years. Now what does this mean? Suppose I stop intaking all the B12, I stop taking up the B12 from today. My body will provide me B12 for 3 to 5 years. That means the B12 which is stored in my body, in my liver, in the hepatocytes, the B12 which is stored, it will be enough for me for 3 to 5 years. Now, few words, and the main point here, it is, we also call B12 as cobalamin. We also call B12 as cobalamin. Now, we'll discuss about folic acid. This folic acid, we mainly obtain this folic acid from green vegetables. Green veggies or green vegetables, they are the main source of folic acid. Another source for folic acid, it is citrus fruits. Some amount of folic acid, it is also present in animal products. It is also present in animal products, but usually when we consume the animal products, we consume them before we consume, we boil them or we fry them. This heating effect of boiling or frying, this heating effect destroys the folic acid which is present in the animal products. Hence, the green veggies, they also should be consumed raw. They also should be consumed in the raw state for gaining this folic acid. This folic acid in our body, its daily requirement, it is 50 to 100 microgram per day. This is the daily requirement of folic acid, and the folic acid, the stores in our body of folic acid, they are of just 2 to 3 months. That means if I stop intaking the folic acid today, my body will provide me folic acid for 2 to 3 months. Now we shall discuss about how this folic acid and B12, how they are absorbed, and at molecular level, what is the defect in DNA synthesis. This is suppose our GIT. And first we will discuss about B12, how B12 is absorbed. Normally when we intake the B12 or when we eat the animal products, we intake the B12 along with animal proteins. How? This B12, He's really very smart. B12, I make it like this, and he's very clever and smart guy. And this B12, when we consume some animal products, this B12, it is covered by this animal proteins. It is surrounded by this animal proteins. In the nature, or when we consume the animal products, this B12, we intake the B12 along with this animal proteins. Now, there's a protein which is present in our saliva. One protein, it is present in our saliva. We call it as R binder. We call it as R binder, or we also call it rapid binder. This rapid binder or R binder, it also has a tendency to bind with this B12, or it also has a wish to bind with B12. This R binder, it also wants to bind with this B12. Now, we intake this B12. As this B12, it reaches in the stomach, this B12, now this clever guy, he has reached in the stomach, and he is still surrounded with this animal proteins. Now, and this rapid binder, from the saliva, he follows the B12, but he is not able to bind with the B12, because this B12, it is already binded, or it is coated with this animal protein. Hence this rapid binder, from the saliva in the mouth or in the esophagus, this rapid binder, it is not able to bind with this B12, and it follows the B12 in the GIT. Now in the stomach, here I make a gastric gland. Suppose this is a gastric gland, and these are mucosal cells producing mucus, and on the gastric gland, two types of cells are present. This is the first type of cell. This cell, which I am marking with blue color, we call it as chief cell. The blue colored cell, they are chief cells, and this red colored cells, they are parietal cells. This red colored cells, they are parietal cells, and blue colored cells, they are chief cells. These chief cells, which are bluely stained, they produce one important product, we call it as pepsinogen. These chief cells, they produce pepsinogen, and this red colored cells, which we call it parietal cells, they produce two products. First product which the red cells they produce, it is HCl, and second product which is produced by this parietal cell, it is intrinsic factor. It is intrinsic factor. Pepsinogen, it is produced from this pepsinogen, it is produced by chief cells, and this hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor, they are produced by parietal cells. Now, in presence of HCl, this pepsinogen, it is converted to pepsin. This HCl reacts with this pepsinogen, and it is now converted into pepsin. Here is the pepsin, and this pepsin now, it digests this animal protein. This animal protein which is coating the B12, it is now digested by pepsin, and B12, he is now free. B12 is now free. This intrinsic factor which was produced from the parietal cells, this intrinsic factor, it also has a tendency to bind with this B12. This intrinsic factor, he also wants to bind with this B12. But there was a protein, he was following him from saliva, we call it as R binder or rapid binder, as he was following it from a very long time. Rapid binder, it is given an opportunity to bind with this B12. Here comes the R binder. Here is the R binder, and this B12, he is now binded with this R binder. Now this B12, he moves further. And this intrinsic factor who also wants to join with this B12, he is following this R binder. Now this R binder along with B12, when it comes here in the duodenum, here is duodenum, and when the R binder, he comes here along with the cobalamin, here from the pancreas, pancreatic juice or proteases, they are secreted. From the pancreas, pancreatic juice or proteases, they are secreted, and they now digest this R binder. The R binder, it is now digested by this pancreatic juice, and this cobalamin here, it is now set free. This is the pancreatic juice. It is now destroying the R binder, and here it comes the B12. After R binder is destroyed, this B12 is again free. This intrinsic factor now, he was following the R binder, and as this intrinsic factor, he was following the R binder, now this intrinsic factor, he is given an opportunity to bind with this B12 or cobalamin. He is now given an opportunity to bind with this B12. He is so smart. Up till now he was just carried. First he was carried by the animal protein, then R binder, and now he will be carried by intrinsic factor. This intrinsic factor, it comes here, it moves forward in the GIT, and somewhere in the ileum or in the ileal cells, it reaches here, and when this intrinsic factor along with this B12, it reaches here in the ileal cells, these ileal cells, they show specific receptors for intrinsic factor. Ileal cells, they show specific receptors for this intrinsic factor, and this intrinsic factor, now it binds to this intrinsic factor along with the B12, it binds with the receptors present on the ileal cells. What happened? This intrinsic factor which came from the duodenum along with the cobalamin, it came here in the ileal cells and it got fit here in the receptor, and now a process, we call it as endocytosis, it occurs here in the ileal cells, and this B12, along with the intrinsic factor, it is endocytosed in the cell. Through endocytosis, this B12 and intrinsic factor, they are endocytosed in the cell. Here, he is so clever. B12, now he is very happy, as the intrinsic factor which bought the B12 up till now, he is now getting destroyed or getting digested here in the ileal cells, and this cobalamin, he is now free. This cobalamin, he can't stay alone, he needs someone. So the ileal cells now provide him another carrier or another transporter. Another transporter is provided to this B12 by this ileal cells. Here is another transporter which is provided by B12. Here he is, and here this B12 he is now sitting. And in this way, B12 comes forward in the peripheral circulation. This is the peripheral blood, and this B12 along with this carrier, it reaches here. This B12 along with this carrier, it reaches in the peripheral blood. This carrier, he is doing the job of transporting vitamin B12. As this carrier, he is doing the job of transportation of B12, we called it as he is transferring the cobalamin, hence we call it transcobalamin. We call it as transcobalamin 2. We name it as transcobalamin 2. Now that cobalamin, he is very safely reached its destination in the peripheral blood. I told you since the earlier lecture, from the start of lecture, I have been telling you that B12 is very smart and clever. Now I will tell you why he is smart. Because from the beginning, he is being carried by some proteins. Firstly, he was carried by animal protein, then R binder, then intrinsic factor, and now transcobalamin 2. And in this way, he escaped the acidic environment in the GIT. The gastric juices, they were not able to destroy this cobalamin or B12, because all the time he was binded with some or the other protein. This B12 now, some of the B12, it reaches here. Some of the B12 now, it reaches in the liver, and in the hepatocytes, this B12 is stored. This B12, it is stored in the hepatocytes of the liver, and this hepatocytes, they store this B12, they store it is for 3 to 5 years. I told you earlier that this B12, it is stored in our body for 3 to 5 years. Now we shall discuss about folic acid. We shall discuss about folic acid. Quickly, I will ask you some questions. You try to answer me. Which was the first protein? Tell me, which was the first protein to bind with B12? Yes, intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor was the first protein to bind with B12. Another name for B12, it is Another name for B12, we call B12 also cobalamin. How much is the daily requirement of folic acid? How much is the daily requirement for folic acid? Folic acid, the daily requirement for folic acid, it is 50 to 100 micrograms. It is 50 to 100 micrograms. Now tell me, what is produced by chief cells? What is produced by chief cells? Chief cells, they produce pepsinogen. Chief cells, what they produce? They produce pepsinogen. What is produced by parietal cells? Parietal cells, they produce two products. First is hydrochloric acid and second is intrinsic factor. Second is intrinsic factor. Now we shall discuss about folic acid. How folic acid it is present in nature and how we absorb it. Now initially folic acid, they are multiple glutamic acid residues. This folic acid, they are present in nature as multiple glutamic acid residues, and we also call them as polyglutamates. We call them as, they are polyglutamates because they are made from one or more than one glutamate, and we call it as polyglutamates. And when we intake the folic acid, we are actually intaking this polyglutamate. Now here comes the folic acid. The folic acid, when it reaches here, somewhere in the jejunum, here is the jejunum, this is the brush border of jejunum, and when the folic acid it reaches here, here are some special enzymes. Here are some special enzymes. We also call them as conjugases. We also call this enzyme as conjugases because they have a work to conjugate some other things. Now initially when this enzyme is as a barrier here, we are intaking polyglutamates, and these polyglutamates we can't absorb them. Why we can't absorb the polyglutamates? Because they are polar compounds, and polar compounds, they can't be absorbed. Hence this enzyme, which is also called as conjugases, it converts this polyglutamates into mono and diglutamate. It converts this polyglutamate into mono and diglutamate, and from here this mono and diglutamate, they are absorbed, and now they are converted into tetrahydrofolate. Now they are converted in the jejunum, the folic acid, it is now converted into tetrahydrofolate, and to make this tetrahydrofolate more soluble, it is also methylated. This tetrahydrofolate, it is methylated, a methyl group is attached to it in the jejunum, and now we call this product as methyl, we call it as methyl tetrahydrofolate. This methyl tetrahydrofolate, and in this form only it jumps here in the peripheral circulation. Here comes methyl tetrahydrofolate, and now it is a monoglutamate. We converted here a special enzyme, it converted polyglutamates into monoglutamates, and now it is in the peripheral blood. This tetrahydrofolate is now methylated present in the blood. This methyl tetrahydrofolate, sorry, due to methylation, it is not functional. To make it functional, this methyl group, it should be removed. Now, I will tell you in detail how at molecular level what is the defect in DNA synthesis. Some amount of tetrahydrofolate or folic acid, it is also stored here in the liver. It is also stored in the liver, and their stores, they are limited for 3 to 5 months or 2 to 3 months. They are just 2 to 3 months. Now, one more important thing here, it is every replicating cell or every differentiating cell or every proliferating cell, every cell which is rapidly proliferating, these cells, they express receptors for B12 and folic acid. Each cell, suppose they may be the megaloblast or they may be the lining of GIT, they express, whichever cell in the body which is rapidly proliferating, they express receptors for B12 and folic acid. Now, suppose I make here a cell which is rapidly proliferating. Suppose it may be a megaloblast or it may be the GIT lining cell. Here is the cell which is rapidly proliferating, and this cell, it expresses the receptor for B12 and folic acid. This is the receptor for B12 and here is the receptor for folic acid. Now, the B12 and folic acid, I told you, they reach the peripheral blood, and from the peripheral blood, the transcobalamin 2, which was the carrier of B12, it attaches here. The transcobalamin 2, it attaches at the receptor and let the B12 enter inside the cell. He is so happy. He is free again. This B12 is now inside the cell, and here comes the tetrahydrofolate, which is now methylated. It was earlier methylated, now also it is methylated and not functional. Unless we remove the methyl group, this tetrahydrofolate, it will not be functional. Now in the cell, what happens? This tetrahydrofolate and B12, they have some activity. This tetrahydrofolate and B12, they have some activity. They come here, have some activity and get separated. And this activity, it is also favored by a enzyme. It is also favored by enzyme and this B12 itself. B12 is a cofactor in this reaction. Here is the enzyme. This enzyme, it has a reaction between this methyl tetrahydrofolate and B12, and now this methyl tetrahydrofolate, it is the methyl group of tetrahydrofolate, it is now removed, and now it is just tetrahydrofolate. He is very happy because now after removing this methyl group, he is functional. And what is happening here? This cobalamin, he is not happy, he is a little bit sad, because this methyl group, which was initially, it was attached to tetrahydrofolate, it is now attached with the B12. This enzyme which is mediating this activity of transferring methyl group, as the methyl group is being transferred to the B12, this enzyme we call it as methyl transferase. We call this enzyme as methyl transferase. But this B12, he is very clever man. He doesn't stay methylated for a long time. He very soon, this B12, it is having a activity with another product, and he fools that another product. Here is another product, or this. These are homocysteine. This is a compound or amino acid, non-proteaginous amino acid. It is homocysteine, and this homocysteine, after interacting with this B12, it comes here, and this homocysteine, they are methylated now. Here is homocysteine. Sorry, now they are not homocysteine. After being methylated, this homocysteine, it is converted into an important amino acid. We call it as methionine. Now, here also the same enzyme works which was working previously, methyl transferase, or we can also call this enzyme as methionine synthetase. As methionine is being synthesized, we can also name it as methionine synthetase. Now, this methyl transferase, it removed the methyl group from tetrahydrofolate and it methylated cobalamin. This cobalamin, it again methylated the homocysteine and synthesized methionine. But after demethylation of this tetrahydrofolate, they are now being converted into this tetrahydrofolate, which were previously in this stage they were monoglutamates. After being converted into, after being demethylated, they are now polyglutamates. Now what's happening in the cell? There is an amino acid, we call it as serine. And this serine, it has some activity with this tetrahydrofolate. This tetrahydrofolate, it has some activity with serine, and this tetrahydrofolate, it takes one carbon atom or one carbon, it is donated from serine and it is given to this tetrahydrofolate. This tetrahydrofolate, it works as a postman. He takes something from here and it has to deliver it somewhere in the future. I'll tell you, he is taking the carbon atom from serine and he will deliver it. This tetrahydrofolate, it is now acting as a postman. This serine, it donates it to one carbon atom and it is converted into glycine. And here the tetrahydrofolate, after having this activity, the tetrahydrofolate, it has now one extra carbon atom with it. These are polyglutamates. Remember, these are polyglutamates now. Here it is, tetrahydrofolate is having 4 links, and this tetrahydrofolate is now having a carbon atom. CH2 group is attached to this tetrahydrofolate by serine. It is not methyl group, it is methylene group. Earlier it was methyl tetrahydrofolate, then it became just tetrahydrofolate, and now it is methylene tetrahydrofolate. Now this methylene tetrahydrofolate, it is a carrier of one carbon atom. It is now a carrier of one carbon atom. It is now a carrier of one carbon atom. Now what happens in the cell? Somewhere the process of DNA replication is going on. Here is the DNA. You all know, in the process of DNA replication, one of the most important component, when the DNA polymerase enzymes, when they are working, they need a most important component, and they are nucleotides. Suppose this is adenine, thymine, guanine, and here cytosine. Here also cytosine, adenine, thymine, and guanine. We also know that adenine, it is paired with thymine. Thymine is again paired with adenine. Guanine is paired with cytosine. Cytosine is paired with guanine. Here also cytosine, it is paired with guanine. Adenine is paired with thymine. Thymine is again paired with adenine, and guanine, it is paired with cytosine. Now, when the DNA polymerase enzymes, they are working in DNA replication, when they are continuously working, they need a constant supply of this nucleotides. They need a constant supply of this nucleotides, and one of the most important nucleotide here is thymine. One of the most important nucleotide here, it is thymine. Now what happens? How this thymine is produced? There is a product in the cell, we call it as DUMP, D-U-M-P, deoxyuridine monophosphate. This deoxyuridine monophosphate, when an enzyme, it helps him, and one carbon atom is donated to this DUMP, it is being converted into DTMP, deoxyuridine monophosphate. After getting a carbon atom by enzyme, it is converted into deoxythymidine monophosphate, and this thymine, it is synthesized from here. This thymine, it is synthesized by this deoxythymidine monophosphate, and the carbon atom which is required to this enzyme, the carbon atom which is required to this enzyme, it is delivered from this methylene tetrahydrofolate. It delivers its one carbon atom to this enzyme. This enzyme, we also call it as thymidylate synthesis. As thymine is synthesizing, we also call it as thymidylate synthesis. And this tetrahydrofolate, this innocent man, he delivers his carbon atom here in the enzyme. We call it as thymidylate synthesis, and deoxyuridine monophosphate, it is now converted into deoxythymidine monophosphate, and eventually thymine is synthesized. After this reaction, this compound, we call it as tetrahydrofolate, now with 4 legs. Earlier there were 4 legs with this product, but now after acting with this enzyme, he is very sad because they have destroyed its 2 legs. Now it is dihydrofolate. It is now dihydrofolate. The 2 legs, they are been destroyed by this enzyme, and now it is dihydrofolate. But he again meets an enzyme in the front. Again, one very helpful enzyme, it comes here and it helps this dihydrofolate, and it now restores it. Here the dihydrofolate it goes, and it is again restored as tetrahydrofolate. This enzyme which is helping this dihydrofolate, we call it as dihydrofolate reductase. As earlier they were dihydro, now they are tetrahydro. That means two hydrogens are added, and when there is addition of hydrogen, we call it reduction, and this enzyme is reducing this dihydrofolate, hence we call it as dihydrofolate reductase. Now tell me one thing, if there is a deficiency of folic acid or B12, will this thymine will be produced? If there is a, firstly we will talk about folic acid. If there is a deficiency of folic acid, will this will this folic acid donate the carbon atom to deoxyuridine monophosphate? Here the carbon atom which is donated by tetrahydrofolate, this process will not occur, and hence thymine will not be synthesized, and hence the DNA replication which is going in the megaloblast, it will be affected or it will be disturbed, as thymine, an important nucleotide in DNA replication, it is not produced. The process of DNA replication, it is disturbed when there is a deficiency of folic acid. Now we shall talk about B12. If there is a deficiency of B12, will this methyl group get transferred to the B12? No. And if this B12 it is not present and the methyl group is not transferred to the B12, this tetrahydrofolate, it will never get functional, and unless and until it is functional, it will not transfer the carbon atom. It will not transfer the carbon atom. Now there may be some cases or some patients who have a very well supply or a very well content of folic acid in their blood, but they have a deficiency of B12. Again, a patient is having a well supply or a good quantity of folic acid in his blood, but he is having a deficiency of B12. What this occurs? What happens here? Because when there is a good supply of folic acid, this tetrahydrofolate, it will come inside the cell. There is a good supply, and due to deficiency of B12, this methyl group, it is not transferred. As methyl group is not transferred, this tetrahydrofolate, it doesn't get functional, and it remains as monoglutamate. I told you earlier, when the methyl group it is removed, it turns into polyglutamate, and when the B12 is not present, methyl group will not be transferred and it will remain as monoglutamate, and monoglutamate, they are a non-polar compound and they may escape from the cell. This was all about B12 and folic acid. Now in the megaloblast, I told you in the previous lecture that a cell with large nucleus, and excessively hemoglobinized cytoplasm is produced. We call it as a megaloblast. And now one thing I want to clear here, it is, I told you all this process, and at the end we came to the conclusion that the process of DNA replication, it is disturbed due to deficiency of this nucleotide, we call it as thymine. This cell, which is a megaloblast, it becomes excessively hemoglobinized, or the cytoplasm of this cell, it develops very well. This cytoplasm or this hemoglobin, it is synthesized from mRNA by a process, we call it as translation. And this mRNA which was there, in the previous lecture I told you that hemoglobin, it is synthesized from mRNA. This mRNA, it is itself synthesized from DNA by a process called transcription. mRNA is produced from DNA by a process called transcription. And we all know that in transcription, thymine is absent, and instead of thymine, uracil is present. Hence, there is a continuous formation of mRNA and mRNA does a continuous formation of this protein or hemoglobin, and the cytoplasm, it becomes excessively hemoglobinized, but due to deficiency of thymine, DNA replication doesn't occur and the cell, it does not get differentiated, and hence this nucleus, which should, or at the end of this stage, at the end of erythropoiesis, this nucleus which should be disappeared, it doesn't disappear due to less differentiation, due to deficiency of thymine. The nucleus, it doesn't disappear, and hence DNA replication is, due to defect in DNA replication, this cell, we call it as a megaloblast, it is produced. That's all for today. Thank you. In the next lecture, we will be dealing about the neurological complications of deficiency of B12 and folic acid. Thank you.